Hey everyone, Erin here, and I'm here today with my October wrap-up and my November TBR. Sorry if the lighting is really bad in this video. The sun starts setting now at like 3:30, so it doesn't give me very much time to record videos in sunlight, so just gonna have to kind of deal with this until spring rolls around because winter, it's dark almost all the time here, so yay. I did end up reading 4 books in October and half of another book. It isn't as much as I was hoping to read this month, but that is okay. I'd set a TBR for this month, but that changed quite a bit because I ended up getting a 25% off at Barnes & Noble, and if you know, they usually only send out 15% off, so when they sent a 25, I obviously hopped on that, and I ended up getting 2 new books, and I ended up obviously having to read those right away because I had just gotten them, and they were much more Halloween themed than the books I had originally picked. So let's get into what I read in October. The first book I read in October was Red Queen by Victoria Avard, and I really enjoyed this one. This one had really nothing to do with Halloween, but I had picked it up at the very end of September, so I decided to finish it in October. I did not know much about this book going into it at all. I think my synopsis in my TBR for last month was completely wrong about this book, which is a good thing. I was happy I didn't really know much about it because I was very pleasantly surprised at what it ended up being about. I really enjoyed it. The reason I picked this one up because I thought the sequel was coming out soon, but turns out it is not coming out for quite some time yet, so that's kind of a bummer, but I really enjoyed it. I did give this one 5 out of 5 stars. The second book I picked up in October was Crane by Stacey Rourke. This is the first book in the Legends saga, and I also really enjoyed this one. I didn't know too much about it going into it. I just heard some kind of awesome things about it. It definitely lived up to those expectations. If you don't know, each book in this series follows a different legend or urban legend, and this one happens to be Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. So it is about a girl who goes and she moves to Sleepy Hollow, and she shares the same last name as someone who played a very big role in the Sleepy Hollow legend and all of that fun stuff. And she just finds herself in the middle of a new case of murders that are very similar to the Headless Horseman. I had a little bit of trouble getting into this right away because I'm actually not very familiar with the Headless Horseman legend. I had seen the movie a long time ago, but besides that, I'm not really familiar with it, and this book kind of rotates between past of the original story of the Headless Horseman and present time with the main character in this story. It took me a little bit to kind of get familiar with the original legend, but I did really enjoy it. I thought that the past and the present corresponded really well, and it just set up for a very successful story and retelling of this legend. I really enjoyed it, and I am very excited to continue this series. I believe the second book in the series follows some stories of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not 100% sure. I remember looking it up, but now I don't exactly remember. But I really enjoyed it, and I did give this one also 5 out of 5 stars, and I do highly recommend it. I thought it was a fantastic book. And the third book that I read was one that I actually went out and got recently, and that was Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs. When I had the coupon, I obviously went and picked this one up because it had been recently released, and I read it right away, and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. I thought this was the perfect concluding book to this series, and it was just fantastic. I really enjoyed it. This one actually might be my favorite book in the series. Maybe not quite as much as the first book. I wasn't a huge fan of the second book in the series, but I really enjoyed this one, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, so this month was very good with my reading. I enjoyed all the books I read so far. If you have not heard about this series yet, I don't really know where you've been. It's a very hyped series, and the movie comes out quite soon, so that is super exciting. Yes, so of course I obviously recommend the series. It is just fantastic. The fourth and final book that I completed this month was Survive the Night by Danielle Vega. This was also one I went and ended up getting. If you don't know, this is about a teenager who has recently just gotten out of rehab for abusing prescription drugs, and so she's trying to get her life back on track, and her and some friends go to a party which ends up turning into kind of an underground sewer rave, and then crazy stuff starts happening, people start dying, and they're just trying to escape from these underground subway tunnels and survive the night. I had read Danielle's first book. I think that was her debut novel, but I read Merciless last year or a year and a half ago, and I did not enjoy it. didn't really like where the story went, and I just wasn't a fan of the characters and the writing style, but I really wanted to give her a second chance, so I went ahead and I got Survive the Night. I had a lot of the same problems I had with the first book in this one. Still, I wasn't a huge fan of the writing, and I wasn't a fan of the characters. Just have very mixed feelings. I'm not going to say too much because I might do a full review of this book, just kind of depends how passionate about it I feel in a couple days. I was really excited going into it because I was really excited about, just like a typical thrasher, murder on the loose, kind of chasing after these teens to kill them. That's morbid, sorry. But I was hoping for that, and it just took a turn that I wasn't really a fan of. That's kind of the problem I had with Merciless also. That one I could expect more of the paranormal aspects, but in this one I just didn't really enjoy how she tied in the paranormal aspects. I just wish she would have picked either having it more of a slasher and murder on the loose, or just having it paranormal, because it just didn't turn out the way I wanted. That's all I'm going to say about it, obviously, because I can't spoil anything for you. Characters were super annoying. I just felt like there wasn't really any redeeming qualities for them. The main character, she wasn't bad, but the secondary character was super manipulative. She was just a royal raging bitch. I just did not like her, and the other characters were just kind of bland also, so I don't know. I just didn't really enjoy it. I did end up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Not 100% really sure on my rating of it, but I did enjoy it a lot more, and there was a lot more aspects that I enjoyed than I did Merciless. The 5th book that I read some of was Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin, and I had said in my TBR that I had read the first like 500 pages of this book last year, and I had put it down for some time, so I wanted to pick it up again this month. I did end up reading about 300 pages of it, so I have about 200 pages more, and this is probably just going to be one that I pick up here and there and I read about 100 pages. That's kind of what I did this month. I read about 50 pages or 100 pages in between books that I read. That's probably what I'm going to continue to do with the rest of this series, just because it's very long and it has a lot of commitment, so this way I can continue to read a lot of the other books that I want to be reading, but also finish the series. Alright, now on to my TBR for November. This TBR is not set in stone at all, because there are 2 books that are going to be released this month that I do really want to read, and I probably will go out and buy right when they are released, so I will probably end up throwing them into this TBR, so this is a very not set in stone TBR, but these are the books I tentatively plan on reading. The first book is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wayne, and this is one I'm super excited to read about. It's a historical fiction about World War II. It is about a war pilot whose plane crashes into Nazi territory, and she is captured by the Nazis, and she is giving an ultimatum. She can either tell them what her mission was and why she was spying on them, or she will be executed if she does not tell them. And those are basically the 2 options that she's given, and I am just super excited to read this one. I've also only heard awesome things about it, so yes, I just am very excited to read this one. The second book I plan on reading is Hair of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I picked up the first 2 books in the series two months ago, something like that, and I wanted to put off and wait a little bit to read the 3rd book, just because the 4th book has just been released, and I wanted to kind of wait for that one to be released in paperback so that all my series match, and so I wanted to kind of make sure I could read both of them back to back, but I kind of can't wait anymore, so I'm just going to read this one this month, and I'm just super excited to read this one also. The next 3 books I plan on reading are actually rereads, and this is kind of a given, but that would be the Hunger Games series by Suzanne Collins. I typically reread the series every year before the movie is released, but I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to read all 3 again. It kind of just depends on my time and where I am in this month before the movie releases, because the movie now comes out in like 2 weeks, so that doesn't give me a lot of time, even though I can fly through the series because I've reread it so many times. Yes, I do plan on for sure reading Mockingjay, but we will see if I get to the whole series. And then I also will be finishing A Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin this month. I am going to make myself finish it, and it will be happening. So that is what I tentatively plan on reading. The other 2 books that are being released this month that I definitely probably will be reading this month is November 9th by Colleen Hoover, and then also Winter by Marissa Meyer. So those will also probably be added into my TBR once they are released. So those are the books that I read in October, and those are also the books that I plan on reading for November. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.